Do you know where your data is?
Exactly, film at 11.
So we were walking through here earlier, and you pointed something out to me that just I hadn't thought about thinking about those things that way. So we're always usually showing people, we show the carts and I guess officially the workstation on wheels,
Mhm.
and you said, hey, we kind of asked, well, what does this look like to you? And you gave us kind of a different answer. Can you repeat that for us?
Well, in the medical vertical, in the medical scenario, this has data on it. The data that's generated by this or on this is going to be by the medical professional typing stuff in. So those hands and that brain are generating HIPAA data. That HIPAA data is going to be in here. Now, it can be sent out to a cloud application. It can be sent off to a server somewhere, whatever. But it's going to live here, even if it's for a little while. So, uh, being able to identify that with tools that we talked about before, and be able to erase that. Now, different devices can be erased different ways, but the device itself can be erased, but the life cycle of that data needs to have a proper data hygiene applied to that, and being able to make sure that it's properly erased, not just deleted, but erased, and then have that certificate of erasure that shows that these files, these file names, paths, and sizes, etc., have been properly erased. That's an auditor's dream to see that.
So, I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit and say, hey, well, wait a minute. This isn't a laptop. It's a Chromebook.
Mhm.
They told us there's nothing local on it. It all runs in the cloud, right?
Yeah, there's it's a common misconception that just trust the cloud. It's just a portal to the cloud. All the apps run in the cloud. There's local user space on this. You can save this to a local device. A lot of people that have kids that have spent time doing school at home that have Chromebooks, they realize there's local storage space on that, and there's ways to delete that and to reset that storage space. But if if anyone cares about where that data is going to go, where the device is going to go, what the data is, Chromebooks especially, we can show that the data on that user space has been erased in a certified way.
And when we talk about it device by device, in some ways, to use a medical metaphor, we're only putting a band-aid because we're thinking about the immediate problem, this device. And so really it has to be a strategy. We need to be looking at about data across that organization, how data comes in, how data goes out, what happens to devices when we're no longer using them,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. Are we using cloud services? Are we doing sanitation of cloud data? Those kind of things. So, what kind of tools does the Blancco bring to that game to help us address that whole data lifecycle?
So there's two big classifications of products that we have. One is going to be addressing the data itself, data in situ, the life of that data as it's generated, which could be this type of device, going to a server, going to some type of application server where it's maybe an ETL process, it's transformed, it's processed, it's analyzed, etc., and it's copied over to something else. That data, when it was in its original form, the metadata could still be sitting there on a server. So any type of job that you have that copies data, maybe it goes back and deletes that. You're just deleting the pointer to that data. The metadata is still there and it can still be recovered. So that system, that infrastructure that contains that data that used to be there, it can still be recovered. That's why there's really lots of forensics companies out there that can recover that type of data. But following the data as it's being used by the device, by the infrastructure, that's one part of what we can satisfy that erasure process with. The last one, and this is the most common one really, is end of life or repurposing, donating, taking the entire device and erasing it. So two ways of thinking is erasing the data after it's being used, surgically going in essentially in the medical scenario, going in and hitting those individual files and folders, and leaving the file system intact, still having that report that says this is the operation that we did on that data. But yeah, afterwards, after the end of life comes, this system has been refreshed with a newer model, still being able to erase the data and erase the device.
So it's a lot of people may have think about Blancco and think about the end of life data erasure. I'm going to be getting rid of this device.
Mm-hmm.
It's going off premises, and so we may have been thinking that full. I'm getting rid of everything,
Mm-hmm.
but we're also talking about really there's that ongoing usage of it. Yeah, we are quote in a medical setting here, but we know that a lot of healthcare professionals are now working from home, so
Mm-hmm.
needless to say, they have that data with them, and so we've got to look at those file-based solutions too. So it's not
Yep.
oh, I only have to worry about this when I'm decommissioning. I really need to think about it all the time,
Yes.
even from the standpoint of if I'm just going out and accessing an EHR system or a PAC system looking at diagnostic imaging,
Mm-hmm.
I may end up with local files from that, or I may have to pull down a report from another provider. Well, what do I do afterwards? And what you're saying is the recycle bin isn't good enough.
Correct. A lot of most users, and I'm guilty of this at home myself, and my kids as well. The recycle bin is perpetually full of stuff, and you only touch it whenever you want to free up some disk space. Like, oh goodness, I've got a gigs and gigs worth of stuff in here. Boom, empty up, and you have some free space. You're simply, like I said before, you're just deleting the pointers to that data. The metadata is still there. It can be overwritten later on, but replacing that recycle bin with an erasure solution, like what we have with our Blancco file eraser product, being able to have shell integration. You can right click on some files and go down to our Blancco erase selection, and that's going to go in and erase those files and folders on that endpoint device. So medical professionals sitting at home, so, if you have a patient router, or if you have an actual doctor or medical professional that has patient data, and that gets processed, batch uploaded, it supposedly leaves their possession and goes out to that remote infrastructure. Being able to clean that up and making sure that mobile device, that laptop that goes to Starbucks or gets left on a train or something like that, it's secure, and that HIPAA data has been cleansed or erased off of that device.
And all of these solutions are manageable, and so you can set up policies. If I remember correctly, you can do things that if you have anything in the recycle bin, when you go to shut the machine down, you could set a policy that says, well, anything in the recycle bin when you shut the machine down,
Yep.
send it to file eraser and permanently delete it.
Exactly. And if that system is not connected to the network to be able to send that report right away, it's still going to do the erasure, and it's going to store that report locally. Once that system comes back online and we do have connectivity back to the management console, that report goes right up, just as if it was connected during the erasure.
And that reporting is really one of the key pieces, because it's not just good enough to say, well, I did. In a lot of cases, well, hopefully you're not going to get in a situation where you have to show that you've actually deleted that data. But if you would get into one of those situations, you absolutely want that kind of reporting.
Exactly. Trusting a log file usually ends up with an audit ding. You definitely, those are things that can be easily changed, fudged. You generate that on your own, and any auditor that's worth their weight, they're going to know that and go, wait a minute, this is just a simple text file. This is a PDF. Anybody can make that. So having an immutable record that Blancco generates, and we can prove that with our digital signatures that we have. It gets challenged against a private key, so we can prove that all the data in that report has not changed since it was created.
And a lot of people don't realize the liabilities that are in this, because we think about, well, you're going to get fined if there's a breach. If you get audited, and even if there wasn't a breach, but they decide you are not taking adequate precautions,
Yeah.
they still get to fine you.
Yeah, it's a risk, and that risk, fine, you can get a fine just for having the risk. There could be no data leaks. Nothing ends up on the news, but because this is a risk, there's a liability there. You're putting patient data at risk. So that's the whole purpose of having these regulations.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Chris. And hopefully you've all got something out of this. We're not trying to get you that concerned about data security. Well, actually, I guess we are.
Not scared.
Not scared, concerned. That's a good way to put
yeah,
it, Chris.
think about it more often. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
All right.